I think making Saudi Arabia the country that Islam started at, leave it, would be the best thing to do. This was answering the question, how do we unshackle ourselves from Islam? And I don't think they're thinking by force. I don't really know, but I mean, a little bit of this is happening now. Like Saudi Arabia is opening up, at least visually. Visually at least.
Yeah.
They're doing these events, public events, where there's very good looking women looking, doing like beauty pageants. I don't even know what they're doing, but I don't watch beauty pageants, so I don't really know. But it's not the kind of thing that was happening in Saudi Arabia 10 years ago even. So they're openly embracing some Western values, some I don't even know if it's accurate to call them Western values. We should maybe say they're human values, because it's, we're talking freedom. Let women do what they want.
I think it's a lot of it is just shifting the type of control. We might have discussed this briefly at one point in the past. Shifting the type of control that was done over the society from being just focused on religion to talking about not doing any kind of infraction that would hurt the royal family. But at the same time, the current ruling family, the current branch of the ruling family, is not necessarily showing you that this is a change that is going to uproot everything that has been there for thousands of years, and now everything now is great. It's like that illusion that Bush tried to bring democracy to Iraq, tried that, and all of a sudden it's
the kind of thing I was thinking about is like more long term, like somebody today who's, let's say, 8 years old, seeing what's happening in Saudi Arabia now, the better things, okay? And then that person 20 years later, 28 years old now, has that little seed in their head about what Saudi Arabia was like when they were little. That's different than 30-year-olds today.
Yeah, that's a valid way of thinking about it. And there is something that can be said about an enlightened despot in the sense of the Enlightenment. And this is something that we have seen in Tunisia and in Turkey to some extent.
I think the point being made here, though, is if the whole Muslim world is seeing it happen in the center of where it started, that has more impact than if it was just happening in Syria or something.
No, I disagree.
Huh.
I disagree. People view Saudi Arabia indeed as a kind of a religious leader, but that leadership itself does not reflect on the religion. So people are not religious because Saudi Arabia is religious.
Because one way they could do it is, and I already had this in my head, but I wanted to see what you thought first. One way somebody could think of it is, oh my God, look, the Muslims in the original place got bad. We need to fix Islam. We need to become more Islamic, And because part of the story, within the theology, within the theory of Islam is, hey, we've been getting away from Islam and we need to get back to it.
Oh yeah. And one thing here is, unlike Catholicism, where you have a centralized religious authority in the person of the Pope and his institution, you don't have that in Islam. You have Saudi Arabia might be a religious center, but it's not the only center. And in different localities, you have people that have different allegiances and different religious schools and so on. So it's not the same thing.
I don't know if this is relevant or if it matters. I want to have you analyze this real quick. So one big difference between Catholicism and Protestantism, the way the Catholic Church worked was they tried to make everything where all humans had to talk to one dude. and talk to God through the one man, Pope. Protestantism said something else, and I say this is a move towards something better, intellectual, which is no middleman. Each of us has to speak to God. Meaning there's a distributed decision making. Okay, there's not even a leader. Like where in Islam, there isn't a pope, but there also isn't Protestantism.
Yes.
Where everyone has to decide for it's more like a bunch of little mini popes.
Exactly. It's not actually mini popes. It's people who are fighting for the position of the pope.
But I'm not sure that's accurate, and I'm not sure what you mean. I guess in the Pope version, it was Pope saying, "I'm the king of Catholicism." In the Islam version, these people that are their own mini Pope, they're not, most of them, they're not saying, "I have my own version of Islam." They're saying, "This is the Islam. I'm just one of the people speaking about it."
Yeah. This actually, I mean, most of the infighting that happened within the Muslim community right from the time when Muhammad died can be traced exactly to this issue. People fighting over the legitimacy. And if we're talking about this extreme form of monotheism, you're not only against people of different religions, you're also against people who are of different sects. And so people are actually fighting for that legitimacy, and they would say, they're not saying I'm the Pope, they're saying I'm the Caliph. And so it's the Caliphate's concept, which has lasted for 1400 years. Only in 1920s, after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, that you could say this has gone forever. Revived briefly with ISIS, but then thankfully it got squashed again.
So I think what the Muslim world needs is a little bit of what the Christian world did, is to say, get rid of the middleman, speak to God directly.
Well, here's the problem with that. The Pope, or Christianity in general, even though it took the Hebrew Bible and put it as the very first part of their Bible, in Islam this is different. In Islam, you have a version that is so similar to Judaism in so many different ways that the authority of the caliph, the authority of what is equivalent to the Pope, is not a worldly authority that has a kind of a religious aspect to it. It's actually implementing something that is pretty much the heart of the religion. And so trying to create this kind of democratization of the religion is so very different in Islam. It's not even, I cannot imagine that it's possible. There are attempts like the people who chuck away the Sunnah and say we're going to only follow the Quran, and then start coming up with all sorts of modernist interpretations that do away with a lot of the things that have to do with specific sayings of Muhammad, that have to do with specific going-ons of the history of Muslims. But to actually consider something like what happened to Christianity, I think it's very hard.
It's gonna be harder, but I think it's gonna happen. We had what was his name? Abu Sina.
Ibn
Sina.
Yeah.
Abu Sina. It almost sounds the same. Ibn Abu, father or son of. It's either father of a dude or son of a dude. The people who don't know Arabic. This guy was 900 years ago. What I learned about him, this is amazing. He interpreted Islam to mean this. Look, Allah made all the religions. So all the religions are true. And of course, they conflict. So you have to figure out what's good and what's bad. But that's all under Islam. That's amazing, dude. The guy came up with that thing 900 years ago. So he doesn't get his head chopped off. That's my
most of those thinkers at the time were considered heretics or even atheists of some sort. So even though it was very
close enough where a lot of people bought it.
Yeah.
That's good. I think that's amazing to be able to reform it that way. I don't even see another way, by the way. It has to be stuff like that. You have to be, by the way, all the people that figure stuff out like us and then exit, it's very difficult for us to try to improve anything. For the people staying inside, they can have an effect.
Yeah.
Trying to change it from the inside.
But at the same time, I think people on the outside, especially people who are able to speak openly, they have an empowering effect that is very different from what some of the people on the inside do and cannot possibly say because of where they are.
Yes. Anyway, it needs both.